And welcome to the Go Earn It podcast. I'm your host, Shane Sparks, and we have another hammer today. One of the all-time greats, one of my favorite wrestlers, Daton Fix, Oklahoma State. Accolades go for miles and miles. Five-time Big 12 champion, five-time All-American, Junior World champion, multiple-time champion in Fargo. Daton, it is awesome to talk some wrestling with you. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
You got that cowboy hat on. My first question. I had the privilege this past February to call your final match inside Gallagher-Iba against Iowa. What was it like wrestling in that orange singlets in that historic venue in front of those passionate Oklahoma State wrestling fans? What was it like wrestling at Gallagher-Iba?
It was a dream come true. I got to experience the sold out Gallagher as my first year as a starter. And it was, unreal. And I'm just really grateful that I got to experience it again as a senior, especially being my last home duel. It was just a special moment for me, just to being from Oklahoma, growing up a Oklahoma State wrestling fan. It was everything I could have dreamt of.
You're from Sand Springs, Oklahoma. How far is that away from Stillwater?
It's about an hour. Like I could leave my house whenever I lived in Sand Springs and be to Gallagher in just about an hour. So not very far at all.
Do you remember your first time at Gallagher? Did you go there when you were a kid?
Yeah, I would go. So my dad, he was an official. He wrestled at Oklahoma State, and then he became a NCAA an official for a couple years. He ended up doing the one NCAA tournament. Then he kind of stopped whenever I started to wrestle because he wanted to be around me, help me more, coach me. But whenever he was getting started with that, he would go and officiate a lot of the duels. So I would go with him, and I can remember being pretty young, being in Gallagher watching the Cowboys. So,
did you have a favorite Cowboy growing up?
Yeah. So I remember when I was really young, the first couple years, I really loved Steve Mocco. I don't. It was kind of weird, I was really small, so it wasn't like I was ever going to be a big heavyweight. But I just liked watching Steve Mocco wrestle.
You ever meet Steve?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've met him a couple times since then. I actually met him when I was young too, and I was kind of starstruck when I met him when I was young. But it kind of just like a full circle moment for me, being that guy that little kids go up to and they just want to talk to you for a moment. That's really special. And I just think back to whenever I was that little kid, and just try to make those moments really special for those kids.
What are a couple of your all-time favorite memories inside Gallagher, either for yourself, the team, a couple of memories you'll never forget from wrestling at Okie State in that arena?
The biggest one would be that first year we wrestled Iowa at home, my freshman year. Nick Piccinini went out and pinned Spencer Lee the first match of the duel, and that was definitely the loudest that I've ever heard Gallagher. Probably any wrestling event that I've ever been in, that was the loudest there ever was that I've been a part of. And just that whole duel, it was a great duel. It was kind of back and forth, and we ended up coming out on top. So it was a great memory that I can look back on for the rest of my life.
How about individually? What's a match that stands out for you?
That duel that's a pretty big moment. There's a picture of me when I'm riding out Austin DeSanto, had the double legs in, and reached up and kind of grabbed him around the throat for a second. But that's a pretty big moment, I would say. And then I would say my last duel for sure. After the match, I got a standing ovation. So that's really special for me. Just because Oklahoma State, it means everything to me. I love being a Cowboy. And just to have the fans show their appreciation one last time, it was pretty special for me.
You won, what, 4 high school state titles, undefeated in high school?
Yeah, 168 no, four high school titles.
When you look back on your high school career, date now being a little bit removed, what are a couple of things that you have a new appreciation for looking back and reflecting as to this is why you were successful?
Um, I just really was dedicated, really focused on what I wanted, and that was to be the best possible wrestler that I could be. Um, I didn't have much of a social life outside of wrestling. I didn't even get my driver's license till I was 18 because all the only place that I needed to be was practice and in school, and I could get rides to and from there. So it was all my energy was really put into being the best wrestler I could be, and being having that kind of mentality at such a young age. It was I can look back on that and be like, I there's a reason that I've had quite a bit of success.
When you look at your high school career, obviously you had a lot of success in Fargo as well. Highly recruited, obviously, I would assume. But I mean, did you go on any other visits or was it Oklahoma State all the way?
Yeah, I went on all my visits.
You did. So
Yeah,
where did you all go?
I took 5 visits. I went to Oklahoma State, Penn State, Ohio State, Nebraska, and North Carolina. So I took all my visits. Coach Smith, he was definitely trying to get me to not take the visits, but I just kind of told myself that if I don't take these visits, then I could look back on, if I don't have the career that I would have hoped, then I could be like, well, what if I would have taken a visit somewhere and fell in love with a different school, and that didn't happen, so I ended up at Oklahoma State.
One of my favorites parts of doing these podcasts is asking guys like you or whoever it might be, like the what ifs. Like, what if it wasn't Oklahoma State? And it's one of my favorite questions because it's just fun because we'll never know. If you didn't go to Oklahoma State, where do you think you end up?
I don't really know. It just playing the what if game. What if I go to Penn State and then you know Roman bro RBY, he probably doesn't go to Penn State. Because we were probably going to be the same weight. So it could have really changed the trajectory of both of our careers. We don't know. Probably would have both ended up at different places, and who knows? We might have been at different weights. All different kinds of scenarios could have played out from that.
So you're saying if you didn't go to Oklahoma State, you would Penn State have been choice number two?
I don't know. I mean, probably. It's hard to say. Just because I was so focused on where I wanted to be, and that was Oklahoma State. I definitely I could have seen myself in all those different colleges. I could have I really tried to every time I went on a visit was really picture myself being in that college environment, wherever, whether it be State College or Lincoln, Nebraska, or Columbus, Ohio. I was really trying to buy into every place that I went, and just at the end of the day, it was I loved Stillwater, and I wanted to be a Cowboy.
What's your first recollection of John Smith?
um, obviously I've known him for a long time. My dad, he wrestled at Oklahoma State around the same time John did. I think it was his last year. As my dad was getting here, so his last year was my dad's first year. So they were on the same team for a year. My first probably like real recollection of Coach Smith was I would come up. I was probably in 6th grade, so only like my second, third year, probably second year of wrestling. And he would have the regional training center practices, and he'd have a bunch of younger kids there just because Joe Smith, his son, was a couple years older than me, so he was trying to get the best kids in the state to come to these practices to uh, help his son, but also help the state of wrestling. And, and during those practices, I had two cousins that would come with me to the practices, and they've been wrestling for a while, and they're kind of one of them was around Joe's Joe's size, so knew my cousin's name when his last name was Karstetter, and so he just kind of assumed that that was my last name too. So for the first probably mm, month, 2 months, he would always call me Karstetter instead of Fix, and it was just funny because I had to keep telling him that that's not my name, and then eventually he figured it out, and you know about 6 years later I was wrestling for him. So it's a pretty funny story. Just that he
Great story. Great story.
remember my name.
What's your favorite high school state championship memory? Winning of the four.
Um, the first one's always fun, because you're young, you're a freshman. Some people probably or they don't think that you're gonna win. Uh, I liked that uh like that version of it. But as a senior, I it was just a really special moment too, just because I really wanted to win four state titles, and I set out to do that, and I did it, and it was just a really special moment. Also because I sorry, my dog's out there barking. But it made it a little bit more special as a senior because we actually won the state team title as well, and we ended up only winning by I think like 6 points, and I got a fall in my two matches in the first two rounds, and then got a fall in the finals too, and those 6 points were kind of the deciding factor in the winning the state title as a team. So it was I always wanted to win as a team, and I got to experience that as a senior. And because every year I was always the last guy wrestling just for my team. I was there, wanted we were always a pretty good team, but we always just kind of came up short. And then eventually that senior year we got over the hump.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I got a golden retriever.
Really?
Yeah, he's his name's Champ. He's he's 3, I think. 3 now.
Okay.
He's still pretty excited. He's got a lot of energy. I think my fiance just got home, so I think that he was getting all excited that she was home.
How did you meet your fiance?
So we met here at Oklahoma State. She was on the pom team, which is like the dance team. We met the second semester of my first year here. So we met, and we've pretty much been together ever since. So
When you getting married?
not this upcoming October, but the October after that. So October 2025.
Did she know anything about wrestling?
No, she didn't know anything about wrestling before she met me. So it was kind of a culture shock for her, throwing her into the wrestling environment. But she knows a lot more about it now. That's for sure.
When did you realize, Daton, that you wanted to be great?
Um, from a pretty young age, I just kind of talked about how, when I'm throughout my high school career, I, didn't have much of a social life just because I was so focused on, wanting to be the best. And I didn't, my dad never really forced me to wrestle. He, waited until I came to him to, ask him if I will ask him to basically beg him to say, hey, I want to wrestle. And as soon as I did that, he, bought into me. And one of the first questions that he asked me was, what's your goal in wrestling? And I said, well, what's the best thing you can do? And he said, win an Olympic gold medal. And I said, well, that's what I want to do then. I want to, become an Olympic gold medalist. So, from the very, start of my career, it's always been, about, doing whatever I can do to become an Olympic gold medalist. And, that's still what I'm working for. It's all this is just everything that I've been through, all the practices, all the tournaments. It's all just, getting me ready for that moment.
Twitter handle @greatest ever. What's the story behind that?
Um, you know, I obviously I want to be, be the greatest ever. I think that's a great goal to have. But it's kind of, I was pretty young whenever I started that. But the reason that I've kept it is because, it's like a daily reminder for me that, if I really want to be the greatest version of myself, the greatest Daton Fix that I can be, then I have to do the little things right. I have to live the right kind of lifestyle. Be the best role model that I can be. So it's kind of evolved from just being the best wrestler that of all time to just being the greatest version of myself. And I think that at the end of the day, that's all we can ask of ourselves is just try to reach our potential and be the best version of ourselves.
When you want to have the success that you desire at this level, everything matters. Everything matters. You talked about doing those little things consistently. What are those, Daton? For Daton Fix, what are the little things that you have got to execute day in, day out?
It's showing up to practice with a plan, showing up to practice with just something you can work on to get a little bit better. Sometimes you're not going to feel like getting up and going to practice, but you still got to do it. And I think that having a plan and having something that you're trying to do to get yourself better is a great way to keep yourself motivated. If you're constantly trying to improve on your craft, then it's pretty easy to stay motivated.
How do you continue to love the sport? It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. How do you? Why do you love it? Why do you keep wrestling?
Um, it's I just love the sport. I don't think there's any other sport like it. Um, I think it's the hardest sport. I think that there's not a lot of like glory. Like it's not a real showman type of sport, and so I think that it takes a really special person to be a wrestler um and to be a good wrestler at that. It takes a really special person. It's just not easy, and I think that I like that aspect of it. It's and it's the reward for putting all that hard work in, and there's nothing like it. Whenever you get to stand on top of that podium or you know run around the mat with the American flag draped across your shoulders, there's no other feeling than that.
2017, I believe it was 2017, you win the junior world title. You had a
Yep.
heck of a tournament. You got to make that jog around the mat holding the American flag. Go back to that day. Like what was, how would you describe that day, winning that title and getting to run around the mat?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I've dreamt of, and then I've been itching and clawing to get back to a moment where I can do it again. It's I can just remember going to that match. I was really confident. I wrestled really good in all the matches leading up to the finals, and I was just going out there trying to dominate, and that's what I did. Ended up getting the tech in the finals, and I can just remember uh, just being really happy. Just because I've been to during that time, I got two bronze medals two previous times that I was at the World Championships. So to kind of get over the hump and finally win, it was a big deal for me.
You're on the podium. They raise the flag, play the national anthem. What was that like?
It was awesome. Anytime whenever I'm warming up, doesn't matter if it was whenever I was a young kid, high school, college, anytime that national anthem plays, that's what I picture. I picture myself standing on top of the Olympic, the podium at the Olympic Games with the American flag at the top, and just to kind of have that a little sliver of it. It's the Junior World Championships. It's still it's a world title, but obviously it's not the Olympic Games. So to experience it to a degree, really special, and just made me want to get to the make the Olympic team and go to the Olympic Games and have it happen. Really happen this time.
Obviously, Daton, your career speaks for itself. I mean, watching Daton Fix. I remember doing a broadcast. You were, I believe, still a senior in high school. It was in St. Louis, and I mean, you put it on a kid hardcore, and the pace. I just remembered the pace at that time for me. I'd never really seen anything like it. So, I have an understanding on your wrestling. What I'm fascinated by with all the great ones, yourself included, is what goes on in here. Like that's the part that I'd love to just live in there for 20 minutes, even. I pick some stuff up. You talked about before about, sometimes maybe you don't feel like going to practice. Like, what do you tell yourself? I mean, on those days, do you tell yourself something? Do you read something? Do you got some slogans? Like, how do you get yourself ready when you don't feel like it?
Um, you know, for me, those days they don't happen very often. But I think the biggest thing is just showing up. If I put myself in that environment, I'm a competitor, so whatever we're doing that day in practice, it's gonna kick in. That I might not feel like it, but we're gonna be wrestling, so it's pretty easy for me to. I'm a competitive person, so once practice starts and we start, either if it's drilling, sparring, going live, my instincts are gonna kick in, and I'm gonna get motivated pretty fast to have a good practice.
During your time at Oklahoma State, who was your best teammate?
My best teammate. I had a lot of great teammates. One of my best friends, we came to school together, me and Caden Gefeller. So he was, there for, my whole career. Boo Llewellyn, he was another guy that we weren't as close before I got to college, but once I got to college, we were really close. I lived with him for a couple years, so it was he was a great teammate to have. Uh, Whenever I think of the good, great teammates or the teammates that I kind of looked up to, it was during my younger years. So like Nick Piccinini, he was someone that I really looked up to. Someone that I got to wrestle with every day. Uh, and then just the last couple of years, I've been able to be on a team with guys like Dustin Plott, um, Luke Serber. A lot of those Oklahoma kids just that I knew growing up, but just having a chance to be on the same team as them, it's pretty cool.
When you think about the conversations you've had in this sport, and I'm sure there have been many, whether it's your dad, John Smith, coaches, I mean, you've dealt with a lot of people. Is there a conversation that stands out? Like when you look at your career, is there an impactful conversation you'll never forget?
Um, I'm sure there is. I'd have to think about it for a minute. Um, I mean, me and Coach Smith, we've had some great conversations.
You got one
He's
that stands out?
um just a lot of the times for me, just kind of after the matches that I've lost, especially in those big moments, he he was always there for me, and I think that that's all that I could have asked for, in those moments was he was one of those guys that help me through those moments, because those moments aren't uh, aren't easy to get through. Him, also my dad, uh, my family. I think that a lot of helping me get through those moments where I'd have to contribute to them. It wasn't just me. If it was just me, then I don't know if I definitely couldn't have done it on my own. So just they've just constantly were telling me that that I am I am good enough. I'm definitely wrestling uh doesn't define who I am as a person, and I just think that they just having their support, it helped me not even just pick myself back up, but train my butt off to get back to those moments. It's definitely not easy to lose those moments, but it's even harder to get back up and then train to get back to that moment to have another chance. So it was a lot of that's on them.
NCAA finals, you were there 4 times, all close matches. You could have won 4, you could have won 2, you could have won 3, you could have won 1. I mean, they were all close matches. Of those 4, is there one that if you could get one back, but just one back, which one would you want back?
Definitely the first one. The first one. The way it ended, yeah. It wasn't obviously it's controversial. One that what eats at me the most about that match though is the 30-second ride out prior to us going back on our feet. I had my leg in, get stalemated with probably like 9 seconds left, and I was 9 seconds away from winning. All I had to do was find a way to hold them down, and I didn't. So it's definitely on me. I was in a great position to win the match, but those 9 seconds were definitely if I could go back, it'd be to that moment, and find a way to ride them out for 9 more seconds.
How were you able to get through some of those setbacks? I mean, because let's be honest, those are, as you said, big matches. You're so close, knocking on the door. How did you keep coming back? Because I think that's one thing, Daton, that's very underappreciated. You kept coming back. Like, that says a lot about you.
Yeah. It was never easy. It didn't get easier. It definitely got, each one hurt more than the last. It just sucked. It sucked to get that close that many times and not get my hand raised, on that stage, especially just because it was something that I've pictured myself doing, millions of times, and to not get it done, it was, just heartbreaking. It's just the easiest way to put it. It was heartbreaking. But I think that in those moments are when that I leaned on my faith more than anything. I know that I wouldn't be the person that I am without those matches. I think that at the end of the day, that it's going to help me, become a better coach. It'll help me become a better father, better husband someday. I'll be able to relate to a lot. Whenever either my athletes, my sons, my daughters, they're coming up to me and they're going through these hard times. I'll be able to be there for them and help them back on their feet and tell them that it won't be the end of the world, even though if it might feel like it, but it's not.
Tell me about your faith and how it plays into your wrestling.
Yeah, it's something that I grew up going to church, which I'm very thankful that my parents they did that for me, and it's it just gives me peace that going into each match, I know that no matter what happens in this match, God's gonna love me, and that just gives me a peace that I can go out there and wrestle to the best of my ability. I know that He's gonna be there for me. I've pretty much already had the worst outcomes that I can go through, so I know that He's gonna pick me back up every time, and gonna be there for me. And I just think that I'm very thankful for all the opportunities that God's given me, and the least that I can do is just help spread His word, using through the sport of wrestling and using the people that follow me, and that's what I try to do.
When you look at your career, and you've got so many matches, so I know these questions are like, there's you got such a resume. Is there a match, Daton, and we can maybe talk mainly about college or international, but that you learn the most? Maybe not even a win-loss. I mean, could be either or, but a match that you just learned something critical.
Yeah, there's probably a couple different matches I can think of. Um, 2019, at Final X, I wrestled Thomas Gilman. Um, and it was a great three-match series, and I just kind of just found a way to win, and that was just a moment that kind of solidified that I can make the senior world team. I'm good enough to go to the world championships at the senior level, and I know that I'm good enough to win world medals and win world titles. Um, Especially because he was coming off. I think. I think he won a silver medal 2 years prior,
2017 silver. Yep,
2017.
I believe.
So I knew that that guy was definitely good enough to win the world championship. So if I can beat him, then I can win it all. So I think that was just one moment where I just really helped me believe that I can achieve the things that I want to achieve.
I want to ask you this, Dayton. You and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. I think if I remember right, the first time I met you was in the Unidome. I think you were in like 8th grade. Your dad brought you up. I still remember. I mean, this is a while ago. So I've watched you wrestle. I've talked to you a bunch of times. I want you to explain to me. This is where the two guys that come to mind the most, you and Zane Rutherford. Explain to me how you go from being pretty laid back. I would say, in my experiences, feel pretty soft spoken. But when you got to find a switch to really destroy somebody, you can do it. Like, how do you do that?
I don't know really. I think that whenever I was first started wrestling, my mom would always tell me that I needed to be a little more physical, because I was a nice kid. I didn't really, I didn't want to hurt anybody. So she's constantly telling me before these tournaments I need to be a little more physical. So eventually I go out there and I'm wrestling. I don't know where I was. It was just some little kid local tournament, and I accidentally poked the kid in the eye, give up penalty point, and end up losing the match because of the penalty point. So I told my mom, I was trying to get more physical, and I ended up poking the guy in the eye. So there goes that. I kind of told her that I was going to go back to being nice, but eventually I figured out that I did need to be a little more physical. But I don't know what it is. I think it's just the competitor in me. I know that wrestling's it's a physical sport, so the nice guy, I can be as nice as I want off the mat, but whenever it's time to strap him up, then I gotta do what I have to do to win.
You mentioned the battles with Gilman. You talked about DeSanto. Who are the toughest guys like that you wrestle? Like, maybe not the most talented. Who's a guy or two, Dayton, that when you wrestled them, it was like, okay, I know I can win this, but this is going to be not fun for the next 7 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Gilman, he's probably the one that comes to mind first. It was kind of funny. The other day we were Thomas and David were talking. They're talking about how they used to put they were, I don't know if they've done it a lot or not, but they put gloves on and boxed a couple times. And I was just kind of made a joke. Well, I was like, well, me and Thomas, we box pretty much every time we wrestle, and he thought it was funny, but it really does feel like that. We every time we've ever wrestled, it's been real physical, and I'm grateful for all those battles. I think that they've helped me. Like I said earlier, it helped me believe that I can be right there with the best guys in the world.
What's it like these days in Stillwater? I mean, David Taylor comes in, Thomas Gilman, Jimmy Kennedy. I mean, obviously some new Cowboys are on the ranch. What's this been like for you? I mean, this has got to be different, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. But I think it's been good for me. just having a different kind of outlook on wrestling. A little bit of a, just it's like I've got to go through change without really having to leave. And I think that that's good. It was good for me. I think, in the long run. Obviously, it was tough situation. With just the previous guys that were here, them leaving. But at the end of the day, I think that it's been good for me. It's put me in situations where I'm not as comfortable, and I think that that's where you find a lot of growth sometimes. And I think that it's been good. The last couple months, just getting to know them and learning from them. It's been good.
What's something that has surprised you with Thomas Gilman that you didn't know?
um, he's he's pretty funny. He's got a different kind of sense of humor, but once you're around him, you understand him a lot more. And it's been good. I think that he's a really good coach. He's it's been great for me, having someone that I can go with and that can push me. It's been awesome.
And in the few months that David Taylor's been there, what's something that stood out as far as, how has he helped your wrestling in the short time that he's been there? Different perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I knew David, better than Thomas, just because I've been on 2 world teams with David. And I just probably just talked to David a little more than I was talking to Thomas, because I was on one world team with Thomas, but we weren't really the best of friends, just because we went back and forth, on the mat. So it wasn't like we were chatting it up every day, but I knew David a little bit better coming in. And he, I think that just his outlook on wrestling, his mentality going into his matches, I think that that's something that he's helped me with. Really, he believes, the same kind of philosophy that I do, but just haven't really been putting it together on the mat. Going out there scoring a lot of points. It's always, growing up, that's the way that I wrestled. That's the way that I want to wrestle. But sometimes you get in tight matches, and there's just not very much scoring going on. And I think that his kind of outlook on everything, it's going to help me find ways to score more and just kind of stay foot on the gas the whole match.
If you could go back, Dave, and have a conversation with yourself when you were 18, heading to Stillwater, what advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
I would I'd tell myself, don't worry about what other people think of you. There's going to be people that love you. There's going to be people that hate you. And at the end of the day, neither of them really matter. If I let the people that love me hype me up too much, then I could get humbled pretty quick. If I let the people that hate on me get me so far down that I don't want to go out there and wrestle, then that's not good either. So I think that just not. I would tell myself, don't worry about what other people think. Just go out there, be you, because you're good enough to achieve everything you want to achieve.
Call this the Go Earn It podcast. In your career, what was your Go Earn It moment? Like, when was your back against the wall? When did you, Daton Fix, have to learn something about yourself?
I think that, I think the go earn it moment for me would definitely be those moments whenever I had to pick myself back up and then just find a way to really fall back in love with the grind of wrestling. Because it's hard enough to get to those moments, but to get yourself back up and then get yourself ready to go in for a whole nother year of hard practices, weight cuts, matches every week that are not easy. They're going to be hard matches every week. Just to get myself back to that moment, I think that would be the Go Earn It moment for me. It was not easy, but I didn't.
Talked about John Smith a little bit here and there. You got a favorite John Smith story? Like, I mean, when you're 90 years old, on your porch, you'll probably be in Oklahoma yet because you're an Oklahoma guy, rocking on the, maybe a couple grandkids running around. What, and you think about John Smith, what will you remember decades down the road? You got a story that like really stands out with him?
I mean, obviously the story of him calling me the wrong name, that's a pretty good one. He uh I was at my freshman year. I went to there's a country there's this little country music venue at in Stillwater called the Tumbleweed, and they play like there's country singers come and show up. Um, when I went to a concert one time, and I don't know, we were with some of the guys on the team, and uh, he they just kind of lift me up. They lifted me up because I was the small guy. They lifted me up. I was a freshman, and then all of a sudden, before I know it, I'm just getting passed, from person to person. Like basically, I'm crowd surfing at this country concert, and I was just, the whole time just thinking, I gotta get down. I don't need to be up here crowd surfing at this country concert. But the next day, I go to practice, and Coach Smith's like, ask me how I'm doing, and he says, so, heard you were crowd surfing at the Tumbleweed last night. And I was, I couldn't really say much. I was like, yeah, they threw me up there. I was trying to get down, but they had me in the air, and I couldn't do much about it at that point. But it's just a funny story, and it was a good lesson for me. That no matter where I'm at, people are gonna be watching, and they're gonna know who I am.
What's the most upset you've ever seen Coach Smith?
Oh gosh, he I've seen him upset, plenty of times. He was really upset in the locker room after we lost. We were in when we went to Iowa, had a duel against Iowa. Not this past year, but the year before. He was pretty upset then. Uh, he he was upset. We had a duel against Columbia in Columbia. He was pretty upset after that one. He didn't think we wrestled as good as we could have, but he definitely wasn't scared to let us know that he wasn't happy.
You got a story from the corner that stands out with him, like in a match in one of your matches with him in the corner.
Um, he it's kind of funny. So this last finals match that I was in with Vito, I don't know if they were taping my eye up or it was a review or something, but he just kept telling me, quit letting you're letting the crowd affect you. And I was like, eventually I was just like, no, I'm not. I'm not letting the crowd affect me. And he's like, oh, okay, okay. And just kind of slapped me on the butt, sent me back out there. But he didn't really ever. I was one of the few people that he didn't ever really get very mad at. He usually, I mean, I didn't really give him too many reasons to be mad at me. Maybe he should have been a little bit more mad at me a couple more times. Maybe that would have got me over the hump. But he he was a good coach for me. He um, obviously one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but he's one of the greatest coaches out there too.
What's something, Daton, within the sport like that you're pretty passionate about? Like, is there any, like something that if people are just talking wrestling, debating something, whether it's 3-point takedown, riding time, I mean, it could be a bunch of stuff. Is there something like within the sport that you'll like, strikes a little bit of a chord with you?
I mean, I would have to say like that. Oklahoma State, we're the greatest wrestling program of all time. I mean, I don't think it's not hard to argue it. We've won 34 national titles, more Olympic golds than anybody, more Olympic medals. I mean, we have more Olympic medals than a lot of countries. So it's I don't think it's much of a debate, but that's probably where where mine goes there.
Just reminding everybody that you can't look at the last 15 to 20 years, right?
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
look tell the whole story for
Yeah.
sure. Want to ask you this question. If you were taking a car ride from Stillwater, Oklahoma out to Seattle, up to Seattle, it's you get to pick 3 people that you've never met. They're dead or alive. You get 3 people. Who are you picking?
Ooh. Um, 3 people. I'll throw Jesus Christ. He's gonna be in there. Um, I'll put Michael Jordan and Tom Brady. Just 2 other guys that they've won a lot. I could pick their brain on kind of how they went about their careers, and then obviously Jesus Christ. It's a you got to have him in there.
If were you a sports fan growing up? Like you a sports fan outside of wrestling?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love all sports.
Really? Favorite? Who are your favorite teams?
So my dad, he grew up in Colorado, so I'm a big Denver Broncos fan. Um, we haven't had the best since Peyton Manning retired. We haven't really had the best years, but hopefully here in the next couple years we're back on top. But I'd say them for football. I used to like the Nuggets, but uh, once Oklahoma City got a basketball team, I started cheering for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, those are the 2 main sports that I watch. I mean, I like watching. I kind of follow baseball. My dad was a Mets fan growing up, so I kind of like the Mets. Uh, it's just hard for me to sit down and watch a baseball game. Baseball's one of those sports that it's it's way more fun if you're actually in person watching. It's kind of the opposite of I'd say the opposite of football. I think football's actually better on the TV because you can actually see what's going on a lot better. But I think baseball's the opposite. I think baseball's better when you're there, harder to watch on TV.
You have any posters in your room growing up of athletes?
Uh, yeah, I had a poster of Kendall Cross. Kendall Cross was in my room growing up. He signed a poster for my dad was a high school wrestling coach, so he signed a poster for them whenever after he won the Olympics. It was a picture of him, right after he won the Olympics. So I had that hanging up in my room.
I just thought about this, Daton. How can we talk and not talk about your inside trip? Where did your inside trip come from?
Well, Kendall's the one that actually he showed me how to hit an inside trip. And it's just something that I don't know. It's a move that not a lot of people are. It's not really one of their main moves, but it's definitely one of my probably top 3 moves that I hit. And it's just something that I just got the hang of when I was pretty young, and it's kind of stuck with me. It's definitely come in handy a couple times throughout my career, and so you know it's kind of fun whenever you hit it and kind of gets the crowd. They get a little bit more excited. It's a little bit more fun seeing someone hit an inside trip than a sweep single leg.
What separates a great inside trip from a good inside trip?
A great inside trip. I'm gonna put you on your back. You're gonna be on your back.
Technically, what do you have to get to that point?
So I think that a lot of people they hit their inside trip and they want to sag more than go through the guy. So kind of whenever I'm hitting my inside trip, I'm going through the guy more than I am just throwing my leg in and like sagging really hard. Sometimes you sag real hard, the guy can step his leg out. Sometimes your foot can get stuck in the mat and they can kind of drive over the top of you. So I really focus on trying to keep my pressure into the guy rather than hitting it and kind of sagging back.
Where do you keep all your awards at?
I don't really know. I mean, a lot of them are probably at my parents' house. I'm sure I have some laying around my house somewhere, but I really don't know where a lot of them are.
Which one means the most to you?
Um, I don't know. It's I think just the work going into all those medals mean more than the medal themselves. It's you know that that just kind of me not knowing where half of them are or any of them are. I think that says more than anything. It's not about the piece of metal that I get. It's more just the work that goes into it, and like I said, just trying to become the best version of myself. Um, I think that if I can do that, along the way with trying to achieve these big goals, then I think that's what matters most.
Couple more quick ones for you. Talking about the Kendall Cross poster, and you had that great inside trip. Talking about posterizing somebody. What's a move that you hit on somebody that was, Daton Fix as a poster in some 13-year-old's room? Tell me the match. Tell me the move.
Uh, I mean, it's probably an inside trip somewhere. Uh, inside trip. I'm trying to think of probably the most memorable inside trip. Probably the 2018 World Team Trials. I was wrestling Tony Ramos in the finals of the World Team Trials, and hit him in an inside trip uh, at the end of the match to kind of seal it. So I think that's probably one of the better inside trips that I hit in my career.
What are you most proud of?
Um, I'm like in my wrestling career, or
You know what? You can take it any way you want to. In your wrestling career or in general, you can answer it both ways if you want.
yeah. I mean, I'm proud of um, the person that I am. Um, growing up, obviously I wanted to be a great wrestler, but um, I want just to be, an even better person. I think that when someone says, my name, and I want the first thing that comes to mind for them if they've met me to be, yeah, I mean, he's a great wrestler, but he's an even greater person. And I think that um, I think I do a pretty good job of that. It's something that doesn't come easy. Obviously you don't. There's times where you want to say more than you probably should. You want to do things that other people are doing. But just living the right kind of lifestyle, and um, just being a good person. Treating people the right way. I think that that's really important, and probably more important than any wrestling match that I can win.
From a wrestling standpoint, what do you take a lot of pride in? How do you want to be remembered?
Um, I want to be remembered as just someone that could always come back. Doesn't matter what I go through. I'm going to be there at the end of the day. I'm going to go out on my terms. I'm not going to just lay down for anybody. I'm not just going to quit. I'm going to come back and come back stronger. And I'm going to be I'm going to be there at the end of the day. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to give it my all every time I step out there.
Well, Daton, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate the conversation. More chapters to be written in your book, but it's just always been fun to watch you, and you're one of the great guys in the sport. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.